It's very good to see you. Thank you for your time again. This is wonderful. I appreciate that the community here and everybody we can reach to out on the internet is going to be able to have this opportunity to hear from you, Dr. Medzini. We know your expertise in these areas, and we are very thankful that we would have the privilege of speaking with you and hearing from you and also from Mickey what is transpiring there and what you'd like to see get across to people here in the United States and around the world through the internet from what is happening and transpiring in Israel. And I have a few questions, but I would let you begin.
Okay, let's get started. Today is day 18 of this war. Israel has not yet embarked on the ground operation, although the army seems to be quite ready and prepared to go. But there are a number of considerations that are still holding up the works. Among them, the fact that we have about 200, probably 210 hostages in the hands of Hamas, and nobody has a clue how they're going to treat them, what they're going to do to them. This is one consideration. The other consideration, of course, is what is going to be the cost of such a land operation, meaning how many casualties are you're looking at. Thirdly, what is the economic cost? And that means how long can you keep 360,000 reserve soldiers in uniform?
Right.
At some point, there'll be an economic cost, which I don't know if we can bear for any length of time. Therefore, the idea at the moment is, in principle, we are going to go in. The Americans have so far not objected. On the contrary, they sent here a 3-star Marine general who is here with us, not basically to tell us what to do, but rather to be involved and see what we're doing and report directly to Washington. We have the American support. We have the French support of France. Today, the French president was here. The British Prime Minister was here several days ago. I think the Italian Prime Minister is due tomorrow or the day after. In other words, we still have international support.
Yes.
How long that is going to last, we have no idea. Furthermore, there is another consideration here. Some people are saying, why not carry on with what you've been doing for the last 2 weeks, and that is the systematic destruction of Gaza, which means that there is enormous human cost. There's no question about it. But we are slowly destroying command posts. We've killed a number of Hamas commanders. There is a great deal of turmoil and unhappiness in Gaza. It is true that there is a collateral damage, and that is public opinion. In many places, there are demonstrations against Israel. There have been problems, let's say, in Columbia University, at Harvard, Stanford, London, various demonstrations in Paris, and so on. But for the time being, we feel that we have the needed time in order to calculate the exact time and extension of the ground operation. Another major consideration is, will that in any way create another front in the north?
Right.
We've been targeted a bit by Hezbollah, not as worse as we did. However, we have evacuated 120,000 people.
It's amazing.
A strip along the 90 miles long borders. How long can you keep them in hotels? And that is beginning to hurt, for example, our agriculture. Who is going to milk the cows? Who is going to sow the fields? Who is going to collect the eggs? And that is beginning to show a bit signs in Israeli supermarkets and so on. A few hours ago, there was something landed in southern Golan from Syria. We've had some warnings from the Russians. And therefore, we have to take into account international considerations, public opinion, American support, Israeli economy, Israeli mood. The mood in Israel is we've got to settle this once and for all.
Good.
Can't expect another round, which means we go in and then we go out, and in 3-5 years, here we go again.
Right.
So this is the mood as it is this evening on day 18 of the war.
Well, that's a great picture that you're painting, and I think it's important for people to have that level of understanding, because there's so many facets that are really, concerned here. One question I had for you was, I listened to Senator Lindsey Graham when he was there in Israel, and in my opinion, it's some of the strongest, lines drawn in the sand that I've heard. And I just wanted to know what the feeling was there in Israel about Senator Graham's statements.
What was the particular statement that struck you?
Was the fact that he was really pointing out what everybody knows, but is not really said in the terms he used, which is that Iran is responsible. For instance, in reference to the hostages, he stated that he was holding, Iran responsible for what happened. And if they would give the word, those hostages would be released immediately. And that if anything continued to transpire via Hezbollah, he said this would not be a 2-front war. This would be a 3-front war, as he would focus upon taking out Tehran and holding them liable.
Well, in many respects, I fully agree with him. Certainly when it comes to the connection between Iran and Hezbollah. But Iran is not the only country. Qatar has been supplying Hamas, by the way, with our approval. Believe it or not, in the last 15 years, $1.5 billion, $35 and $50 million every month in cash. They came with suitcases full of money, theoretically to hand over. This was to be used as payment for civil servants. In reality, this in fact enabled Hamas to use huge amount of rockets, which are still being fired, by the way, even today, and a few other war machines. But Iran has a great and important role. Look, the moment Iran is involved, this creates a major fear in America that this could expand. And if it could expand, you could see, for example, North Korea being drawn in. Some of the weapons that we discovered on Hamas, the terrorists, were made in North Korea. And there is also fear that Russia may find itself in. Look, the Russians are in Syria. As we speak, the Russians are 100 miles from where I live. We've had understandings with them for the last 15 years, or less, ever since the civil war broke out in Syria. They allowed us to do certain things, such as destroy supply of weapons from Iran to Lebanon via Syria. Therefore, we struck a number of occasions the international airports in Haleb and in Damascus. But the Russians are signaling that their patience is running a bit thin, and they will probably veto an American draft proposal at the Security Council, which is convening right now. So we have to take into account not only Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, relations with America, relations with Western Europe, Israeli economy. There's so many different considerations that have to be taken into account, something, incidentally, that we did not have 50 years ago. during the Yom Kippur War.
Mm.
This is a totally different exercise. One of the key results so far has been to unify Israel. We started the war in a series of serious internal dissent for a variety of reasons. I don't want to go into details now. In the last 2 weeks, there has been enormous sense of unity. We now have a war cabinet that consists of 2 ministers who were in the opposition until recently. 2 of them former chiefs of staff who know what it's all about. And the sense in the country is that for a change, we are now united and determined to see these things through and not to allow this opportunity to slip from our hands, because there's another consideration. 26 settlements on the border with Gaza were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to rebuild them. Many of them were built in 1946. And which means that they are 70, 78 years old, and they were flourishing, they were lovely places. Those who weren't killed, many were killed, homes were burnt out, destroyed. We want to restore. We have to provide them with the confidence that if they go back and rebuild, they are protected. And what happened on October 7th will not be repeated.
Yes. But do you feel like this sense of unity in Israel is going to be able to stand for a time continuing the hesitation to go into Gaza? I mean, I'm personally glad that they're really planning this out rather than just rushing in. But do you feel like that unity is solid enough that it's going to remain?
The unity will remain until this war ends.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll end in some sort of a victory, although it's very difficult to define what victory means.
Right.
Then we will have to start asking nasty questions. What happened? What went wrong? Why were we caught by surprise? It turns out Hamas planned this thing a year in advance.
Right.
And we were caught totally unaware. The surprise, the shame, the humiliation, the number of casualties. We are at the moment 1,400 dead.
Yeah.
In American terms, this would be 50,000 people. This is unbearable for us.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we will have a commission of inquiry. Heads will roll. I assume that at some point the prime minister will have to go. But all this only after the war and after we begin to rehabilitate our economy. The economic side is extremely important.
Yes.
Many businesses are closed, and many companies have had to see their workers being drafted to the army. And tourism is at a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take time to rebuild all this. I, for one, am convinced that it'll work out.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically we are sane people who love life. We've shown what we are capable of doing. We've taken a massive blow, there's no question about it. But I think we are slowly beginning to recuperate from this disaster.
That's good to hear. That's very good to hear. Well,
can I add?
Yes, please, Mickey.
And in terms of the social cohesion, it's amazing to see. I myself, volunteer here and there in my community and going elsewhere, and there are no political questions, and people from very, I would say, liberal domains to a very conservative, working together, no question asked, and all of them are understanding we have to go in, we have to make sure that it will not happen again, and that the people will have enough safety and security to go back to rebuild their communities. So there is a very strong social cohesion in Israel right now, supporting, volunteering, contributing with their time, with their efforts, with their money. Everyone contributes in so many ways.
Gary, I'll add one more thing. The ultra Orthodox who were exempt from military service, and there are huge numbers, in the last 2 days, about 2,000 of them volunteered. They came to the army recruiting officers and said, we want to do something. We want to participate in this, because they see the entire nation has been aroused, and they say, we can't stand aside. We can't sit this one out. And therefore, this is a totally new phenomena.
Yes.
And one of them, I saw him on television. He's a 40-year-old man. He's got 5 children, a very long beard, and the usual thing. And he says, this time I can't be silent. I've got to go in, and I'll do my share, whatever I can. This is something that is very positive.
That is going to have an impact later on in the psyche of the country, because I know it's a major issue that they are exempt, and it's been part of the question that's been, coming up before all this transpired. So I think that's wonderful to see that happen, and it's been exciting for me to see news pictures and things coming out, with obviously ultra Orthodox people in uniform right there in the midst of the army activities. So
right. So some good things occur.
yes.
But it's still the picture is still pretty grim.
What is the feeling in Israel as far as the concept of a 3-pronged war? Is that something people are really hoping that's avoided, or are they feeling like that would be part of actually ending this thing on another level, where there could be an ability of security given to Israel that doesn't exist right now?
Well, when you say 3-pronged war, 3-front war rather, means Gaza, it could mean the West Bank, it could mean Lebanon, Hezbollah. The assumption in Israel as of today, and I may be wrong, is West Bank unlikely. There could be clashes, but nothing major that will require a huge number of troops. Gaza first. The first and top priority is Gaza, whatever happens in the north. But we are not taking chances, and the army is totally disarrayed on the border, the entire border. This is why we evacuated people from a 4 or 5 mile strip near the border. We have warned Lebanon, but even more so. Lebanon was warned by President Biden on more than one occasion. He used the famous phrase, don't, if you are considering. On the other hand, Hezbollah is reported to have stocked probably 150,000 rockets of all sorts and types. Some of them are precise weapons.
Right.
And here we are vulnerable. If they destroy 1 or 2 power stations, 2 or 3 air bases, we're in serious trouble. And this time we sent a message to them politely, saying, last time we were nice. We did not destroy civilian infrastructure. If you try again, the gloves will be off. And that would mean basically the destruction of half of Beirut, Sidon, Tyre, and a few other cities. And we told this openly to the Lebanese prime minister. The last war in 2006, in which, by the way, my son, he was a captain in that war.
Wow.
During that last war, the Lebanese asked, and we agreed through the Americans, we're not going to destroy your civilian infrastructure. Airport, yes. Water, power, we'll keep out. This time, no such guarantees. And they understand that Lebanon is in total disarray. Lebanon is in serious economic trouble. And they realize now that Israelis have been aroused. And you can't live forever under this constant threat. So I hope that we will be able to sort of contain, but there's no guarantee at all, because one of our failures, which led to the October 7th disaster, was to think like we think and not like they think.
Right.
Totally different mindset. Human life, destruction, and so on, very low on their priorities.
Mhm.
In our order of priorities, this comes first. This life comes first. You know, when you drink wine in Jewish situation, you say l'chaim, to life. Life is very important. As far as they're concerned, life apparently is of lesser importance. And we now have to think like they think. And this means that you have to think way out of the box.
Right.
And this regrettably we failed to do. So the same thing, by the way, happened on Yom Kippur 50 years
Yes.
ago.
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
But there the army was far better prepared, and we had a notice of about 20 hours, something like that. And we had totally different leadership and a different Israel.
Mm.
Israel that was united. This war, we went in social disarray. The amazing thing is that the ones who are doing all the voluntary work in Israel today are people who led the demonstrations against the Netanyahu reform plan. They put on their uniform, and it's called Brotherhood in Arms, or Brothers in Arms.
Brothers in arms.
Brothers, I think my son belongs to them. And they forgot immediately about all the protest movement and so on. And they're now involved in work in the South and with people who were evacuated and so on. So they failed to gauge the mood, the spirit
Yeah.
of Israelis. And spirit is something that is very important.
Yes. Very much. Very much. What Mickey, do you see and feel and would like to pass on to people to get a sense of where things really are in your mind on the ground?
So again, there are two levels here, and my kids, one of them just finished the service as on call. She's still not there, so I'm getting the sense of many of the people there, the troops, very much ready to move in, very much understand that this is a critical time, understanding the importance of the job they have at their hands. So this is the young. My generation, again, is this immediate cohesion and contribution and volunteering, which goes, again, we volunteering, driving people back and forth, supporting the people who were evacuated from their homes, supporting the communities that got hurt, supporting farming, there are so many people going and doing farming to sustain those farms that were abandoned by people who were evacuated and are still not back. So a lot of sense of that. However, there is also another level of immense pain. We all know someone. I myself been in more than one, what we call Shiva, the 7 days after you bury someone and you mourn,
Yes.
of kids, of friends. It shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't go to Shiva of friends' kids. You should go to the other way. And it's so painful. And so there is, on one hand, a strong sense of urgency, of need to be together, of need to find a solution, alongside with immense pain, unbearable pain because of the human cost and everyone. I think everyone I speak with, my next door neighbor, his son was injured. Everyone knows people who are being affected physically, emotionally by this, and so we are in an emotional roller coaster on one hand,
Yeah.
but all of us together with the same understanding of where we are going and what has to be done.
Gary, can I throw in another idea?
Yes, please.
My son talks about his generation. What should I say about my generation? I was in the youth brigades in the War of Independence. I missed the Sinai War because I was a student in America. I went through the Six-Day War, the War of Attrition, Yom Kippur War, first war in Lebanon. And at some point, I served in Lebanon together with my son. Both
Wow.
of us were there. I was a major and he was a buck private, but we were there.
Just like home, right?
This war, I have an enormous sense of frustration. Because of my age and because I have some walking problems and eyesight problems, I cannot volunteer. I can't drive at night. And it's difficult for me to walk long distances. And I sit at home and I feel like a useless person where everybody is volunteering, be it my son, be it his children or my other grandchildren. And it makes me very, very unhappy. And it's a very painful feeling. So what I'm trying to do is to do Zooms, discussions with you, a few others in various parts. That's my little contribution. I know it's not enough, but at least I feel that I'm in some way doing the part that I'm still capable of doing.
Well, I think what you're doing, Dr. Medzini, is a very, very important part, because personally, I feel this is as much a media war as it is anything else. And you have the clout from your whole life to speak into this time frame of history, which, like you say, there is no other time in history like Israel is facing now. And to have the perspective and to get the communication across to people from you of what is really transpiring and what needs to transpire, I feel like it's at least 50% of the war effort is the media communication effort. And maybe it's more than that, because eventually the international community is going to be what is putting pressure on Israel to do something other than what Israel should be doing or needs to be doing for its own security. So I think that the more we can get you out in front of people and find ways of expression, that what you're doing is really, really huge. So I personally thank you. And like I said, it's such a privilege. I told my wife the other day when you sent the first email to me, I said, oh my God, Professor Medzini is willing to talk to me. He will interview with me. Why would he interview with me? He's too much of a giant in the realms of politics and, international understanding. So that's my feeling. There's many others that have that. And I am going to, like I said, promote these Zoom meetings with you as much as I can, and get others interested in the communication with you. If I know that's what you're doing and that's your part of the war effort, then we'll promote you as much as the meetings themselves.
Wonderful. We'll be more than willing.
Okay.
Anytime that you feel is the right time.
Okay. Wonderful. I will get the word out. And the sense here, the impact, I think, on Americans to have information. I mean, just me talking to my neighbors. I've been giving lectures while I'm walking my dog about, the history of, Gaza, and is there really a Palestinian people and all. I mean, people are so ignorant of the truth of what's transpired. And so I think the information is really, really huge. And you're one of the greatest sources of information that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to talk to you, and through you to the many, many who follow you and you're in touch with them. So we hope to hear from you soon. Just tell us when, where. We'll be there.
Great. And feel free to keep emailing me. I don't know, Mickey, if you are on WhatsApp or some other type of, do you have my phone number?
I will send you my phone number, and then you will have it, and we'll
Okay,
connect on
great.
WhatsApp.
Because it may
WhatsApp
be
is the
easier.
best way.
It may be easier to communicate sometimes that way. And if something's transpiring where you guys feel, hey, we need to do something now, let me know, and we'll do it.
We'll call
Right.
you.
Great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have your number.
All right, great. Thank you so much for this time. And also just know that we are trying to raise money for, United Hatzalah and Shiloh Children's, and whatever we can do of people we feel like are really there on the front line trying to assist from the humanitarian, because like you're saying, Mickey, I think that's so important right now, of what the kids on the front line and those that are in the military fray are what we think about, but there's so much behind that scene that's necessary for this to, go forward.
Very good. Thank you very much, Gary.
Okay. Thank
Be
you.
in touch.
All right, we will. Goodbye.
Bye.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Batzlacha.